With Disney's purchase of the Star Wars franchise, the expanded universe is no longer considered canon. SW fans of Reddit, what part of the EU you consider to be the greatest loss? The Republic Commandos series. I miss the boys and the nulls. The extensive information on Darth Vader's suit. He couldn't get boots that fit. Morphan, what part of the EU you consider to be the greatest loss? Definitely the United Kingdom. As a major economic center of Europe, it is a big shame for the EU to lose it. Full stop. Kyle Mathurda King Katan. The only Jedi I've ever thought truly walked the line between light and dark side pragmatism. Also, at the end of the dark side path of Jedi Academy, he puts his lightsaber away and beats your ass with the Force. Darth Revan. I think his appearance is being hinted throughout Star Wars Rebels, The Scourge of Malachia, The Mandalorian Wars, etc. Unpopular opinion here. I actually liked that Disney decanonized most of the crap from Star Wars. A Force-sensitive droid is just itty writing. So something really minor but really annoying to me is the addition in the new movies of ships being able to jump in and out of hyperspace within a planet's atmosphere. In the EU it was explained that gravity wells could pull you out of hyperspace and you could not jump to hyperspace until you were sufficiently removed from powerful gravity wells. This led to the creation of the Interdictor Cruiser, one of my favorite Star Wars ships of all time. These little cruisers could produce their own gravity well of varying sizes to prevent ships from jumping into hyperspace or to ambush ships by pulling them out of hyperspace early. These ships struck fear into the hearts of many Alliance pilots since they relied very heavily on hit and run tactics. Not so much a loss, but just something they need to match. They got really creative in a lot of the books with doing twists on force wielding that I liked. Like this one dude named Corran Horn. He couldn't do telekinetic, but he could mind trick people like no other. For his tryout thing at Luke's academy, he tricks a group of Jedi, including Luke, into thinking he's lifting this huge boulder out of the ground when really it hasn't moved at all. And Luke just ends up being an epic badass. There's one time where he's flying the Millennium Falcon by himself, which is impressive on its own. But then he starts using the Force to use those ducking man turrets to fight off enemy fighters while he's flying the thing. So to me, Disney needs to match that in the movies. I need some Luke being a Methodica and wrecking folks with some next level Force it, or I may never be happy again. We got to keep Thrawn. But I do miss Mara Jade, the fact that it took being crushed by a moon to kill Chewie. The Darth Plagueis novel. Some of it survived in the Tarkin novel, but most of it is gone. It explains so much about Palpatine and how the idea of the Empire came. Mostly the stuff about Outbound Flight, Darth Revan and Grand Admiral Thrawn. I hope they bring something back. Thank you for your replies. Going to check out both Rebels and Clone Wars. Honestly, I miss Jacen, Jaina, and Anakin Solo. Not because they were in many good stories, they weren't. But I started reading the EU when I was 8. Having grown up with them, I can't help but have a soft spot for those three. Shadows of the Empire, or at least the story concept, the events between ESB and ROTJ. Reread it last year and the writing style feels more like fan fiction than Star Wars. But the overall storyline is ducking excellent. I mean it. There's a video game and a soundtrack. So can someone please make a movie? 1. Luke and Leia's now awkward extrema sexual tension in Splinter of the Mind's Eye. 2. All of the super weapons that weren't giant death spheres. 3. The Yuuzhan Vong saga. I grew up on this. And it has some big things. Emotionally moving. And sometimes scary. Also had amazing acting and sound effects in the audiobooks. I forgot Thrawn. Can't forget Thrawn. I'm on a lot of medications. Revan, Kreia, The Old Republic, Thrawn, and the Yuuzhan Vong. Rogue Wraith Squadron, Shadows of the Empire, Jedi Academy. I'd be pretty happy to have Kyle Katarn back at some point, along with Dash Render. Anybody gonna mention Starkiller from Force Unleashed? What about Darth Bane? Orbalisk Armor? Created the rule of 2 for the Sith? All the cool super weapons that aren't just death spheres. The Eclipse, the Sun Crusher, the Galaxy Gun, etc. Mostly the Eclipse. Full stop. No one mentioned the young Jedi Knights. Silly me. There I was sitting at the cinema hoping for Jacen and Jaina to pop up in The Force Awakens. Lots of the little things. Dude in the cantina who appears for 5 seconds? Give him a name, backstory, and how he plays into the universe. Throwaway line about spice? Make an entire backstory for it. Little things like that made the galaxy feel large. Darth Vader in the Ghost Prison. Mara Jade and Grand Admiral Thrawn. Darth Talon 6e red-skinned girl. Also, Disney may have been responsible for the cancellation of 1313 and the Darth Maul video game. One thing I miss, the Old Republic. One thing I don't miss, the nuclear arms race of force powers. People were getting way too strong. All these mentions of Thrawn, but no mention of that San trilogy itself? How is that possible? Thrawn is canon but that San trilogy is fantastic. That's the greatest lossimo. I wish we'd gotten that as episode 7-9 instead of Force Awakens more than less than. Jacen Solo. Nothing had me more riveted than Jacen's descent to the dark side and Vong experiences. His Sith prophecy coming true, and that moment when he realizes he is a Sith Lord and names himself. I know Palpatine is widely regarded as the most powerful Sith, but I think Jacen had the potential to be even more so. Thrawn. I know the character is back but his campaign against the New Republic isn't. Pelarian 2. The Yuuzhan Vong War. Kyle Katarn. Almost all of the Old Republic stuff. From Revan to Bane. The whole Sith history and mythos. The Clone Wars comics. The Battle of JBM is still one of the most brutal things ever printed under the Star Wars name. Darth Maul staying dead. Things I'm glad I gone. Kype Darren and the Sun Crushers. Perhaps the closest to a Mary Sue character that Star Wars ever got. The Skywalker Solo children. Natasie Dalla. Palpatine 2. Clearly, the loss of the holiday special will be mourned. There were some really cool Darksiders. I'm hoping that Revan, Nihilus and Starkiller return at some point. Stackpole's Rogue Squadron books and their follow-up, Wraith Squadron. I still wonder what limb I'd be willing to live without so I can send it to LucasArts with a note politely asking for them to have Stackpole come write a television series based on it. I liked the concept of the US Gang Vong and that a species could cut itself off from the Force. I haven't finished the series yet. Partly because I'm reading a different set of sci-fi books and the other part because I love Anakin Solo and I know what happens. The X-Wing series. They were everything I ever wanted from Star Wars. Lots of space battles, zany schemes, entertaining and engaging characters, great villains, a slightly grittier look at the universe while still being fun adventures. More X-Wings than you could shake a look at. The Alston books were my favorites. The Wraith trilogy and Starfighters of Aduma. I think the new canon is going to be extremely hard pressed to come up something I enjoyed as much as those stories. Rogue One came close, but couldn't get the characters fleshed out enough for me. Other than that, there's a lot of the games. The Jedi Knight series and the X-Wing games were basically my childhood, and the reason I love Star Wars. There's KOTOR, naturally, and its sequel, and there's the Thrawn trilogy, of course. Still a great series. I'd throw out Tales of the Jedi and Jedi 2. Edit. Guys, I watch Rebels. I know Thrawn himself is canon again. You don't need to keep telling me. It's the trilogy itself, the stories, that I miss. More than the character. The Rebels adaptation is decent, but without the context provided by the events of the trilogy. I think Thrawn is a weaker character.